started in June. I think in August, we heard from Forbes that we were going to be a 3-star hotel.
Oh,
They had their person come in, their inspector come in, and it was not a good visit. And it was the visit that they evaluate you on for the year.
mm,
And it was bad. And our GM had 2 choices, right? He could have said, that was a snapshot. That was one visit. It's not a big deal, which he did not do. He said, this is a symptom of a bigger problem. If it happened to that inspector, it's happening to a lot of our guests. Like, we have to unpack this.
hello and welcome to the Joyosity podcast, where we are diving into the business of joy and how we create positive culture with all those complex people that you work with. I'm Jen Whitmer, keynote speaker, author, and resident joy bringer. And this series is the courage to do it differently. Joy makes work work. These conversations were originally a part of the research for my book, and I was interviewing these gutsy, brave, intelligent, successful people about leadership and identity and business and what it takes to really build something human and meaningful. And today's guest is Carrie Campbell. She is the Senior Vice President of Evergreen Fenway, the group responsible for every event at Fenway Park that doesn't involve a Red Sox game. Carrie is also a dear friend and one of my biggest cheerleaders. Carrie brings this theme really down to street level and maybe hotel level in this case. And you might recognize Carrie from the final chapter of my book, Joyosity: How to Develop Intense Happiness in Work and in Life. Carrie has spent years in hospitality leadership, and what she understands deeply is this: culture is not a poster. Culture is what people experience. And it's whether they feel empowered to care, to connect, and solve and serve humans like humans instead of hiding behind policies. In this first part of our conversation, we talk about how Carrie learned leadership in the trenches behind catering dishes and counters, where she learned the hard way about boundaries and what shifted when she began to see the difference between transactional work and genuine hospitality. Here's Carrie Campbell.
Tell me a little bit about your story in the sense of, how did you begin in the hospitality industry, or did you begin in the hospitality industry? How did you get to the places where you are now, leading in this way?
So I did not study hospitality in college. I didn't even know, was not on my radar at all. When I was looking at schools, I really, really wanted to be a doctor. I really felt like I wanted to deliver babies.
I love it. That's what my mom does.
At the young age of, 16, 17, 18. So I went to the University of Connecticut. I was pre-med. That did not go well after my 3rd D in chemistry. My father was like, let's regroup. So, and I started to engage in student activities, right? Student government, student activities, and getting involved in like committee work and planning. And I was like, oh, this feels like me. I have a lot of energy when I'm planning. So I was like, I think I want to be a planner, do something with meetings when I graduate. Took a job at a PR firm in New York City, who had a conference planning arm. And I was like the registration coordinator and like the person who handled the hotel room blocks. I liked it a lot. New York City was not for me. And the company that I worked with was not for me. Lots of toxicity. That was my front row seat to toxic culture and bullying and like, just not good leadership. And so I just like, I'm going to quit my job and move to Boston with my girlfriends. My tribe all migrated to Boston. So I was like, I'm just going to move there with no job. My dad was like, you can do this once in your life. I'll allow it. And I tempt in hospitality at a mansion called the Hampshire House, 84 Beacon Street. It was the home of Cheers, the bar that inspired the TV show. And I started as like an EA for the owner. And after 2 weeks of that, they were like, we want to hire you. Like, let's just put you in the sales office. So I was there for like 3 or 4 years. Then I moved into the hotel industry. An opportunity came up at a hotel that I was working a lot with, because at the mansion, we couldn't really do a wedding. We could only do a rehearsal dinner because it was small. So I would get tons of wedding inquiries and I would be like, well, let me help you. Let's call XYZ person over at Fairmont or XYZ person at Ritz-Carlton or Four Seasons. They probably are a better fit for you. And then when the job came up, they said, do you want to come work at the hotel? That's the Copley Plaza Hotel, built in 1912 in Copley Square. That job defined who I am as a leader. Stepping
Wow.
into hospitality sales at that level at a luxury hotel, big time wedding hotel. I really didn't know what I was doing. And the catering team took me under their wing and they were like, we're going to teach you how to do this. Never wear that again. Like, you know, they were like navy suit, black suit, gray suit, neutrals, you know, and they taught me how to sell. And the leadership team, Fairmont came in. When I started there, it was a Wyndham. Fairmont flagged the hotel maybe 3 months into my journey there. And they are really focused on culture and employee engagement. And I had never heard these conversations before. I was like, this is so cool that they're investing in us in this way. We had like a trainer came and we did all these modules of training of, you know, guest recognition, employee recognition, like all this talk about culture that I never heard of before, but not just talking to us about it, teaching us how to do it. It was like the perfect time because I was young and no kids, not married, threw myself into my work, but in a way that I was like so happy to be there because I was learning and I was being given opportunities. And then I was like, I can't work like this anymore. I was so young, I didn't know how to create boundaries. And this is way before, I mean, honestly, Jen, like when I started, not everyone had a computer on their desk.
Sure.
People were still smoking in the office. Like this is, you know. So
And you were still working as if you carried your work around in your pocket.
oh yeah. And like I just was like, I just don't want to work like this. I don't think I could do it. So I went and did another job, which taught me that when you're doing something you're not meant to do, you get clear about what you're meant to do, which is for me, hospitality on the service side, like selling hospitality, being the venue for something that's happening. I figured out that I love being in hospitality. I just didn't have the skill set at a young age to create the boundaries not to work all the time, literally like 100 hours a week. It's always going to be there. And again, this is before we had technology where you could maybe work from home one day or whatever. Like that wasn't an option. You couldn't get into the systems unless you were at work. I went to the Boston Harbor Hotel, 5-star hotel over on the water. I learned more about leadership there. I started there in 2004 and it was a 4-star hotel. And I started in June. I think in August, we heard from Forbes that we were going to be a 3-star hotel.
Oh.
They had their person come in, their inspector come in, and it was not a good visit. And it was the visit that they evaluate you on for the year. And it was bad because the way you're priced,
yeah,
the type of business that you've booked in the hotel, into the hotel, especially like the business travel accounts where their requirements are that you're a 4-star hotel in order to put their travelers there. And so it was bad. And our GM had 2 choices, right? He could have said, that was a snapshot. That was one visit. It's not a big deal, which he did not do. He said, this is a symptom of a bigger problem. If it happened to that inspector, it's happening to a lot of our guests. Like we have to unpack this. So he called his leadership team in and was like, what do we need to do? We needed to take a hard look at like what's going on with the guest interactions. And we realized that we were way too policy and procedure driven and that we had set our colleagues up to be policy and procedure driven. Like check-in is at 3 p.m. But the caveat to that is if we're not sold out and someone walks in at 9:30 a.m. because they were on the red eye, just put them in the room. But we were so policy and procedure driven. That's one small. We figured out that our teams didn't feel like they had the empowerment to do things like your room's not ready, we're going to put you in the restaurant. And we're going to buy you your first round of drinks, or we're going to take care of your lunch or your breakfast or whatever it is. And we're going to let you know. We weren't using guest names. We weren't making eye contact. We weren't being thoughtful. We weren't being gracious. We were being transactional. And so take the management team off site, go through a whole retreat of how we're going to do this. What framework are we going to use? We came up with a framework. We worked with Chart House Learning, which is the fish principles.
Okay.
Have you heard of the fish principles?
I have, but I want you to say them. I want to hear how you describe them.
Okay, so at the Seattle Fish Market, they have a framework of how they are going to interact with their guests and each other. A little rusty, it's play,
Mm-hmm.
like play with the guest. Like it's okay to be lighthearted, make their day, which is like try really hard to make someone's day. Like say yes when you can. Like what additional things? How can you enhance their moment? Even say to them, my number one goal today is to make your day, right? Like how can I do that for you? So play, make their day, be there, like be present. Yes, there was traffic. Yes, your kid got a C- on their test, but you're at work. Be at work when you're at work and be in it and be where your feet are. Choose your attitude, which is one of my favorite ones. Similar to be there, which is like you have a choice. You could get a ham sandwich, you can get a turkey sandwich. You can show up and be present with your guests and be thoughtful and gracious, or you can be pissed off about something that happened 20 minutes ago or stressed out. So choose your attitude. And my favorite illustration of this is when we were doing this workshop, we put name tags out and they all had adjectives of ways of being, emotions like happy, annoyed, stressed out, whatever. And we said, just pick your name tag.
Oh, interesting.
And people picked name tags and like, we went around the room, why did you pick it? And some people picked what we would stereotype as negative. And some people picked what we would stereotype as positive. But we said, do you understand that it's the same thing? Here's the buffet. You have a choice. We're here to work. And it was an invitation. Like we took our team offsite. We took them to Cape Cod from Boston Harbor Hotel, which is in Boston. And we did a 2-day, full day retreat with them. And it was an invitation to adopt this philosophy. And we said, it's just an invitation. However, if you're not accepting the invitation, you're going to find it really difficult to stay here. And that's okay. But this is how we're going to roll now. So it's very clear. There's a ton of context. There was this is really where I learned so much about engagement and like making people feel seen, valued, helping them understand the impact that they're making, that they literally can make a mark. And the mark doesn't have to be this huge, I saved the company $5 million. The mark could be everyone who's walking through the hotel. If you see something on the ground, pick it up. And let's just like practice that for 3 weeks and see how it goes. Oops, you just walked by that straw wrapper, pick it up. You just walked by that couch and there's four pillows out of sequins. Fix it up, and so your mark could be, why are we still in Excel? Like we could maybe graduate to some sort of like more interactive, whatever Google thing. So yeah, that to be a part of the culture change, to then migrate to 4 stars and then ultimately 5 stars was huge, huge. And the thing about being a 5-star hotel is it's a huge investment, financial, but also like human capital. There's so much pride. There's so much intention. It takes a lot of energy. And so it's like, treat everyone like they're an inspector. And then you'll be fine. But it's also like, take a second. It's not about the guest and the star. It's about the people that are delivering the services. And does housekeeping have mops that are clean and new and ready to go so that the floor is clean when the guest walks in? Because that was one of the things we got dinged on, is that the floor was sticky. And then like why was the floor sticky? Not because the housekeeping team didn't mop. Their mops were not up to standard, like they were old. And then why are the mops old? Why aren't you saying anything? It doesn't feel safe to ask for things because you keep telling us there's a budget issue. So it's like getting so deep. Meanwhile, on the other side, I'm selling catering, right? And $12 million of catering a year. But really, my passion is the people. So yeah, I mean, that was that. The Fairmont is where I learned about what culture is and employee engagement. And at Boston Harbor is where I got to apply my expertise. And also realizing that it's a practice. You're never going to get there. It's a practice.
So much in this conversation is about the kind of cultures leaders say that they want versus the one that they're actually creating. And here's the thing that stands out for me in what Carrie said. Culture is because they feel it. They feel it because you've given them room to own it and to live the values as their own. Carrie's story is such a good reminder that when teams get too policy driven, they often stop being people oriented and joy centered. And then everyone acts confused when work starts feeling stale and rigid and disconnected. I don't know a lot of policies that are breathing life into things. I mean, mystery solved, gang. So thanks to Carrie for this part of the story. And in the next episode, Carrie and I go deeper into what this looks like for you as the leader. Boundaries, integration, saying no with clarity, having hard conversations before they grow teeth, and leading in a way that protects both people and outcomes. So I like to kind of think of it that this first part of the conversation was Carrie's story and the setup and maybe the diagnosis, and part 2 gets a lot more practical. And so if you're noticing some of these things for yourself, if this series is stirring for you, I'm building something for you. I want to help you reduce that hidden drag. I want you to escape reactive patterns and communicate more effectively and rebalance how you spend your time in your work and the rest of your life inside the joy ratio. And I want to help you do that without overfunctioning, the constant overwhelm, or sacrificing your performance or well-being. So if you are interested in that, if that just perks your interest, you can join the waitlist at jenwhitmer.com/waitlist. And then while you're waiting, grab a copy of Joyosity at jenwhitmer.com/books and wherever books are sold. And next week in this tactical conversation, I bet there's somebody you'd like to listen in. So if you know other people who want to join us in this experiment, share this episode with them so they're ready for next week. Because when you share and rate and subscribe to our podcast, it brings all of our collective courage together to do it differently, to put joy in the center, because joy makes work work.